22 June 1942. You do not beg your allies for salvation in front of the enemy. For thousands of years, every army, every general, every nation understood this unbreakable rule. You maintain the illusion of strength, even when you are crumbling. You project confidence, even when your lines are folding. Because once a commander begins pleading for help, the battlefield begins to rot from the inside. And in the Axis alliance, there was another truth everyone knew. The Germans commanded, the Italians followed, and Mussolini never admitted weakness. He was the Duce, the founder of modern fascism, the man who promised to resurrect Rome itself. He did not beg, he did not kneel, and he certainly did not ask German generals for reinforcements face to face. But in 1942, standing in the desert heat of North Africa, one moment shattered this illusion. A desperate Mussolini reached out. And the German generals, men like Hans-Valentin Hube, saw him beg. Hans-Valentin Hube was 55 years old in 1942, a veteran of the First World War, a man with one arm, lost in the trenches, and a temperament as sharp as the steel pins that hold his shoulder together. Inside the German army, soldiers call him der Mensch, the man, because he never panics, never hesitates, and never sugarcoats reality. He is the type of commander who walks the front line personally, boots in the sand, monocular in hand. Not because it's dramatic, but because he doesn't trust anyone else's reports. He serves where the fighting is worst. France, Russia, and now North Africa. Assigned by Hitler himself to stabilize an Axis force collapsing under British pressure. By 1942, the North African campaign balanced on a knife's edge. Rommel's advance had stalled. Fuel convoys from Italy were being sunk at catastrophic rates, over 60% losses some months. Entire Italian divisions had evaporated at Beta Farm and Tobruk, and British ultra-intercepts were strangling Axis logistics to death. Italy's army was bleeding. Mussolini knew it. But he needed German commanders to believe he could still win, that Italy was still a partner, not a burden. So imagine Hube's position. He has flown to Rome, escorted into the Palazzo Venezia. And there, beneath vaulted ceilings and fascist banners, Benito Mussolini, once the bombastic orator who commanded stadiums, pulls him aside and makes a private plea. Send more German divisions. Send tanks. Send aircraft. Or North Africa is lost. To Hube, the subtext is unmistakable. Italy cannot hold. Italy cannot deliver. Italy is collapsing. And the man who once dreamed of empire is now asking Germany to save him. Hube's job is simple on paper. Return to Africa.
Assess the situation and deliver a blunt report to the German High Command about Italy's true condition. But there is nothing simple about what he is about to witness, because the situation is far worse than even Mussolini admits. As the desert sun rises over Libya, Hube prepares to see, firsthand, just how much of the Italian army remains, and whether it can be saved at all. Hube lands in North Africa in early 1942, stepping into a world defined by heat, attrition, and exhaustion. The moment his boots hit the sand, he senses it. Something is wrong. German troops move with discipline, tight formations, orderly supply lines, precise communication. Italian troops do not. He sees soldiers drifting without purpose, equipment scattered, trucks burnt out or abandoned. Officers are arguing in the open, half rations, thin faces, low morale. He has inspected defeated armies before. This is something worse. An army still fighting, but already spiritually broken. Hube rides to the front with his staff car, bouncing over the desert ridges. Miles before they reach the Italian positions, they hear it. The distant rumble of British artillery. Not sporadic fire, not probing shots, a steady, rhythmic pounding. When they crest the final hill, the sight freezes him. Italian trenches, supposed to be occupied by over 3,000 men, contain barely 900. Most huddle in shallow pits. Some have rifles from 1918. Mortar crews wait for shells that never arrive. A major approaches Hube and salutes weakly, and reports, "We have ammunition for 1 more hour of fighting." 1 hour. And the British attack is expected in the afternoon. Hube stares in silence. He writes in his notebook, "The Italian front is only a front by name." Farther down the line, he arrives at the armored formations Mussolini boasted about in Rome, the Ariete Armored Division, the pride of Italy, the division Mussolini claimed could turn the tide. Hube walks the line of tanks himself.
Out of 141 tanks on paper, only 37 can move. Only 19 have main guns operational. Crews cannibalize 3 vehicles to fix 1. Fuel trucks sit empty, waiting for convoys that were sunk a week earlier. A German colonel whispers to him, "They fight bravely, but they are fighting with ghosts." Hube visits the supply depots, or what's left of them. The British have been intercepting Italian communications and pounding the ports mercilessly. In Tripoli, 70% of warehouses have been destroyed. He watches Italian quartermasters distributing the day's rations, 1/3 of a loaf of bread, half a can of water, and a scoop of sandy pasta that even the starving soldiers struggle to swallow. This is the moment Hube realizes, this army cannot hold this line, not for a week, not for a day, not even for a night. When Mussolini begged for German reinforcements, Hube thought it was fear. Now he sees the truth. It was reality. Italy's North African army is disintegrating, and the British are preparing the next blow. At 0550 the next morning, a cloud of dust rises on the horizon. Hube watches through his monocular. At first, there are just shapes, then glints of metal, then the unmistakable roar of engines. British armor. Dozens of tanks, then scores, then over 100. The British are attacking with 3-to-1 superiority. Hube turns to an Italian colonel. The man's hands shake as he clutches his field glasses. Then the countdown begins. 1,500 yards. The British tank guns start probing shots. Shells crack overhead. 1,200 yards. Italian anti-tank guns open fire. 2 jam immediately. 1 misfires. 1 explodes, sending the crew flying. 900 yards. Italian infantry breaks. Dozens sprint toward the rear. Officers shout, but their voices vanish under the roar. 600 yards. The first British shells hit the Italian tanks. 1 Italian M13 bursts into flames, turret popping off like a bottle cap. 400 yards. The Italian line collapses entirely. This is the moment German commanders feared. Retreat becomes rout. Units blur. Communication dissolves. Hube realizes he has one chance. German reserves must buy time, or the British will cut the entire Axis position in half. He is not supposed to lead frontline counterattacks. He is here to inspect, not fight.
But Hube is a battlefield commander at heart. He climbs into a captured Italian staff car and orders the German radio operator, "Signal the nearest Panzer battalion. We counterattack immediately." The German commander on the other end hesitates. "Sir, we have only 17 operational tanks." Hube answers, "17 will do." The German panzers roar forward across the desert. Unlike the Italians, their engines are tuned, their radios work, their guns fire reliably. The British expect a total Axis collapse. What they get is a knife thrust from the flank. A Panzer III knocks out the first British Crusader at 800 yards. Another fires at 500, hitting a fuel truck that detonates in a fireball. British commanders stagger as their advance folds inward. But the Germans are outnumbered. 17 tanks against over 100 can only delay, not destroy. One by one, German tanks fall. A Panzer III is hit at 300 yards, its hatch popping open as the crew bails under machine gun fire. Another is immobilized by a track hit. Black smoke rises into the sky. Hube stands beside the radio truck, listening to each call sign go silent. He knows they cannot hold. By noon, the Germans fall back to secondary positions. The Italians, exhausted, hungry, leaderless, fail to reform. The entire front tilts backward like a collapsing wall. This is the moment Mussolini feared. This is the moment Hube must report to Berlin. Italy is not just losing North Africa, it is bleeding out. He returns to his tent, sits at a small wooden desk, picks up his fountain pen, and writes the assessment that will shock the German high command. Italian forces cannot hold. Reinforcements are not optional, they are essential for survival. Mussolini didn't exaggerate. He understated. And Hube's report will be the document that confirms Italy can no longer sustain the war without German lifelines. If you find this kind of forgotten history as fascinating as we do, we'd be honored if you'd hit that subscribe button. We believe these stories of courage, sacrifice, and human decision-making deserve to be told, and by subscribing, you help us ensure they aren't forgotten. What Hube didn't know was that his report would ripple far beyond the desert. In Berlin, Hitler reads it twice.
The words sting. Italian forces no longer operationally reliable. Morale deteriorating at all levels. Supply failures are systemic, not situational. Within a week, Hitler made the decision Mussolini dreaded. Germany will take de facto control of the North African theater. German generals will command joint operations. German logistics officers will oversee supply. German divisions will fill Italian gaps. It is the unofficial end of Italy as an equal partner in the Axis alliance. When Mussolini reads the German response, his aides note he turns pale. He knows what has happened. He pleaded for reinforcements, and in doing so, he surrendered control. Strategically, the consequences are massive. Rommel receives the 10th and 21st Panzer reinforcements. German logistics expand operations from Sicily to Tripoli. Planning begins for the desperate stand at El Alamein. The Italian army becomes increasingly dependent on German officers. British intelligence picks up the change almost immediately. Intercepts reveal German frustration, Italian resentment, and the tightening German grip. The Axis alliance has begun to fracture, not from enemy action, but from unequal partners forced together by desperation. And Mussolini's private plea to Hube, once hidden in Rome, echoes through every decision that follows. Hans-Valentin Hube continues fighting. From North Africa to Sicily, from Italy to the Eastern Front, he commands with the same cold precision that made him respected and feared. In April 1945, only days before the war ended, he died in a plane crash returning from a conference with Hitler. He is 58 years old. The Italian soldiers he inspected, many never returned home. Men from Bologna, Naples, Palermo, and Turin. Boys as young as 18. Fathers in their 30s. Veterans in their 40s. Many lie in the desert still, their stories fading with the wind. And Mussolini's plea? It stands as one of the most revealing moments of the entire Axis alliance. The moment when a dictator's facade cracked and German generals saw him not as a partner, but as a man drowning in a war he could not win.
Why does this matter now? Because history is not just dates and battles. It is choices, moments of fear, moments of truth, moments when even the powerful reveal their fragility. And if we forget those moments, we lose the lessons they carry. If this story moved you, please hit that like button. Every click tells the algorithm this piece of history is worth remembering. We're dedicated to rescuing these forgotten stories from the archives. If you want to join us on this mission, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment with your city or state, and tell us if someone in your family served. Thank you for ensuring that Hans-Valentin Hube and the thousands of men fighting in North Africa do not disappear into silence. They deserve to be remembered.